The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, just as I was finishing the final review of a quarterly report for Phoenix Medical Investments. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk in my corner office, the city lights twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Manhattan penthouse. Emergency family meeting tomorrow 8 a.m. Mom's surgery is scheduled for Thursday. We need to raise $80,000 for the procedure. Obviously you're too poor to contribute anything meaningful, so don't worry about it. Just wanted to keep you informed. Derek. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the familiar sting of my older brother's casual cruelty. Derek had perfected the art of dismissing me while pretending to be considerate, a skill he'd developed over the past decade as I'd quietly built my medical investment empire. To my family, I was still Sophie, the youngest Rodriguez sibling who'd wasted her medical school acceptance to pursue some mysterious business venture they didn't understand. While Derek had become a successful cardiac surgeon and our sister Maria had built a thriving dental practice, I had apparently accomplished nothing worthy of their respect or financial expectations. If only they knew that the mysterious business venture had grown into a $3.8 billion medical technology and investment company that owned stakes in hospitals across 3 countries, including the very facility where my mother's surgery was scheduled. I typed back a simple response: "You're right, I can't help. Good luck with the fundraising." Derek's reply came immediately: "Figured as much. At least Maria and I can handle adult responsibilities." I set my phone aside and walked to the window, looking out at the city where my mother would undergo surgery in less than 36 hours. What Derek didn't know was that I'd been monitoring Mom's condition for months through my medical connections. When her cardiologist, Dr. Harrison, had mentioned the need for an experimental procedure not covered by insurance, I'd quietly arranged for Phoenix Medical to cover the entire cost. The $80,000 Derek was scrambling to raise had been sitting in a designated account at Metropolitan Heart Institute for 3 weeks. But I hadn't told my family because I'd learned years ago that my gestures of help were either dismissed as insignificant or resented as showing off. Better to work behind the scenes and let them believe whatever they needed to believe about my capabilities. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. The caller ID showed Dr. Harrison's personal number. "Dr. Harrison, it's late. Is everything okay? Sophie, I hope I'm not calling at a bad time. I wanted to update you on your mother's situation." "Of course. How is she?" "Physically, she's stable and ready for tomorrow's procedure. But I'm concerned about something else. Her sons contacted me today asking about payment plans and expressing significant stress about the cost. I told them the procedure was already fully funded by an anonymous benefactor, but they seemed confused and insisted on knowing more details." I sighed. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing, of course. Patient confidentiality and donor privacy are paramount. But Sophie, they're clearly struggling with this financially and emotionally. Your brother Derek mentioned liquidating his retirement fund." "I'll handle it," I assured him. "Just focus on giving Mom the best possible care." "Always. The procedure is scheduled for 10 a.m. Everything will go perfectly." After ending the call, I sat in my home office, contemplating the familiar family dynamics that had shaped the past 10 years of my life. When I'd turned down medical school to start Phoenix Medical, my family had been devastated. They saw it as throwing away a guaranteed successful career for an uncertain business venture. What they didn't understand was that I'd seen an opportunity to revolutionize medical technology investment and patient care on a scale that individual practice never could. While they'd built successful careers helping patients one at a time, I'd built an empire that could fund breakthrough research, improve hospital systems, and make life-saving treatments accessible to thousands. But explaining that to a family that measured success in traditional metrics felt impossible, especially when they'd already decided I was the family disappointment. The next morning, I arrived at Phoenix Medical's headquarters at 6 a.m. to handle some urgent international calls before the family meeting. My assistant, Jennifer, had coffee ready and a stack of documents requiring my signature. "The Tokyo acquisition is moving forward smoothly," she reported. "The German hospital chain wants to schedule a video conference for next week, and the pharmaceutical patent approval came through for the cardiac device." "Excellent. What's the latest on the Metropolitan Heart Institute partnership?" "All systems green. Your mother's procedure is fully funded and prioritized. Dr. Harrison has our best surgical team on standby." I nodded, checking my watch. In an hour, I'd sit in Derek's living room and listen to my siblings discuss fundraising strategies for a bill that was already paid, by a company they didn't know I owned, using technology I'd helped develop. Jennifer, I'll need you to prepare something for me. A comprehensive breakdown of Phoenix Medical's involvement with Metropolitan Heart Institute. Include our ownership percentage, the cardiac technology patents, and the patient care improvement statistics. Of course. Should I include the financial investment figures? Everything. It's time for some transparency. At 7:45 a.m., I pulled into Derek's driveway in my modest Honda Civic. I'd learned long ago that driving anything flashy to family gatherings only led to uncomfortable questions about where I'd gotten the money and lectures about fiscal responsibility. Derek answered the door in his scrubs, clearly heading to the hospital after our meeting. His expression was tense with stress and barely concealed frustration. Sophie, thanks for coming. Maria's already here. We need to figure this out quickly. I followed him into the living room where Maria was sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, clearly working on spreadsheets and calculations. Sophie, she greeted me warmly, though I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Derek told you about the situation? He did. How's Mom handling everything? She's scared, Derek said bluntly. The procedure is experimental, but it's her best chance. Without it, the cardiomyopathy will continue progressing. And insurance won't cover any of it? Zero coverage for experimental procedures, Maria confirmed. We've been working all night on a financial plan. Derek's going to liquidate his retirement account, I'm taking a second mortgage on my practice, and we're setting up a GoFundMe. I watched my siblings' faces, seeing the stress and determination as they prepared to sacrifice their financial security for our mother's health. Despite their treatment of me over the years, I felt a surge of pride at their willingness to do whatever it took. We estimate we can raise about $60,000 between us, Derek continued. We're hoping the hospital will accept a payment plan for the remaining $20,000. What about Dad? I asked. You know Dad's pension barely covers his basic expenses, Maria replied. We can't ask him to contribute. Derek looked at me with an expression that was half hopeful, half resigned. Sophie, I know your business. Whatever it is, probably doesn't generate much income yet. We're not expecting you to contribute financially. The dismissal stung even though I'd expected it. I appreciate you letting me know what's happening. Of course. Your family, even if you can't help with the money. Maria shot Derek a warning look. What Derek means is that we understand everyone's in different financial situations. No, it's fine, I said. Derek's right. I can't help with the money. It wasn't technically a lie. The money had already been provided months ago. Derek's phone buzzed and he checked the message. Dr. Harrison wants to meet with us before the surgery tomorrow. He said there are some developments regarding the procedure. What kind of developments? Maria asked nervously. He didn't specify. Probably wants to discuss payment arrangements or maybe additional costs we haven't considered. I remained quiet, knowing exactly what Dr. Harrison wanted to discuss. We should all be there, Derek continued. Sophie, can you make it to the hospital by 9 a.m.? I'll be there, I confirmed. The rest of the meeting was spent reviewing their financial plans and discussing logistics for Mom's care during recovery. I listened quietly, offering emotional support while my siblings carried the weight of what they believed was an impossible financial burden. As I prepared to leave, Maria walked me to the door. Sophie, I'm sorry about Derek's comment earlier. He's just stressed about the money. I understand. We all handle stress differently. For what it's worth, I think what you're doing with your business is brave. Even if we don't always understand it. Her words meant more than she knew. Thanks, Maria. That means a lot. That evening, I sat in my penthouse office, reviewing the final details of Mom's procedure. Dr. Harrison had sent me the complete surgical plan, including the experimental cardiac device that Phoenix Medical had helped develop and fund through 3 years of clinical trials. Tomorrow's surgery wasn't just about saving my mother's life. It was also about validating technology that could help thousands of other patients with similar conditions. The irony wasn't lost on me that my family saw my work as meaningless while I was literally funding the innovation that would save our mother. My phone rang at 8 p.m. It was Mom calling from her hospital room. Sophie, honey, how are you? I'm good, Mom. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Nervous but hopeful. Dr. Harrison says the procedure has excellent success rates in clinical trials. That's wonderful news. Derek and Maria have been so worried about the cost. They're planning to drain their savings to pay for this. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar tension between wanting to reveal the truth and maintaining the careful boundaries I'd established with my family. They love you, Mom. We all do. I know, sweetheart. I just wish there was another way. I hate that my health problems are causing such financial stress for them. Mom, what if I told you not to worry about the money? Oh, honey, I know you'd help if you could. Derek explained that your business is still getting started. Don't feel bad about not being able to contribute. Just being there for emotional support is enough. Derek had explained my situation to Mom without ever asking me about it. The assumption that I was struggling financially had become family canon, repeated so often that it was now treated as established fact. I love you, Mom. Get some rest tonight. Everything's going to be fine tomorrow. I love you too, sweetheart. See you in the morning. After hanging up, I made one final call to Dr. Harrison. Sophie, I was hoping you'd call. Everything's set for tomorrow. The surgical team is briefed, the equipment is calibrated, and the experimental device is ready for implantation. And my family still doesn't know about the payment? Correct. Though I suspect tomorrow's pre-surgical meeting will provide some clarity. Dr. Harrison, when you speak with them tomorrow, I want you to be completely transparent about the procedure, the technology, and the funding source. It's time they knew the truth. Are you sure? This will obviously reveal your involvement. I'm sure. They deserve to know. The next morning, I arrived at Metropolitan Heart Institute at 8:45 a.m. The hospital was a gleaming example of modern medical architecture, and I felt a quiet pride knowing that Phoenix Medical's investment had funded the new cardiac wing where Mom's surgery would take place. Derek and Maria were already in the waiting room, both looking exhausted from sleepless nights spent worrying about money instead of focusing on Mom's health. Sophie, you're here, Maria said, standing to hug me. Dr. Harrison wants to meet with us in his office before we see Mom. Any idea what this is about? Derek asked, his stress evident. Let's find out, I replied. Dr. Harrison's office was impressive, medical degrees and awards covering the walls, shelves lined with medical journals and research publications. He greeted us warmly and gestured for us to sit around his conference table. Thank you all for coming early. I wanted to discuss a few important matters before Mrs. Rodriguez's procedure. Derek leaned forward. Doctor, if this is about payment arrangements, we have a plan. It might take us a few months to gather the full amount, but... Actually, Mr. Rodriguez, that's not necessary. The procedure has been fully funded. What do you mean? Maria asked. I mean that 3 weeks ago the entire cost of your mother's surgery, including the experimental device, postoperative care and rehabilitation, was paid in full by an anonymous benefactor. The room fell silent. Derek and Maria exchanged confused glances. That's impossible, Derek stammered. We don't know anyone who could afford to just pay $80,000. Actually, Dr. Harrison continued, the total amount was significantly more than $80,000. The experimental cardiac device alone costs $40,000, plus surgical fees, hospital stay and follow-up care. The total amount covered was approximately $130,000. Who would do that? Maria whispered. Dr. Harrison looked at me, asking a silent question with his eyes. I nodded. The payment came from Phoenix Medical Investments, he said. Perhaps Sophie can explain further. Derek and Maria turned to look at me, confusion evident on their faces. Sophie, what's Phoenix Medical Investments? Maria asked. I took a deep breath. It's my company. Your company? Derek repeated. What kind of company? Medical Technology Investment and Development. We fund research, develop new treatments, and acquire stakes in hospitals and medical facilities. I don't understand, Derek said. You said you couldn't help with the money. I said I couldn't help. The money was already there. I paid for Mom's surgery 3 weeks ago. The silence stretched for several long moments. Sophie, Maria said slowly, how much money are we talking about? How big is this company? Dr. Harrison cleared his throat. Perhaps I should mention that Phoenix Medical is one of our largest investors. They own approximately 30% of Metropolitan Heart Institute. Derek's face went white. 30%? Sophie, that's a lot of money, I confirmed. Phoenix Medical manages about $3.8 billion in medical investments worldwide. Billion. Maria's voice was barely audible. With AB. With AB. Derek slumped back in his chair. I don't understand. If you have that kind of money, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us stress about fundraising when you'd already paid for everything? Because every time I've tried to help in the past, you've either dismissed it as insignificant or accused me of showing off. It was easier to help quietly. Sophie, Dr. Harrison interjected, there's something else your family should know. The experimental cardiac device your mother will receive today? Phoenix Medical funded its development through 3 years of clinical trials. Without your sister's investment, this life-saving technology wouldn't exist. Maria started crying. Sophie, we've been so wrong about everything. There's more, I continued. Derek, remember when you had that malpractice lawsuit 3 years ago? The legal fees that mysteriously got paid by your insurance company? That was Phoenix Medical's legal division. Derek stared at me in shock. And Maria, when your dental practice needed that equipment loan with the surprisingly low interest rate. That was Phoenix Medical's financing arm. You've been helping us all along, Maria whispered. I've been helping because you're my family. But I got tired of being treated like a charity case by people who were actually living on my charity. Dr. Harrison stood up. I'll give you all a few minutes to process this. Mrs. Rodriguez's surgery begins in an hour, and I want everyone focused on supporting her recovery. After he left, the three of us sat in silence. Finally, Derek spoke. Sophie, I owe you an apology. We all do. The things I've said, the assumptions I've made. Derek, you don't need to. Yes, I do. Last night I texted you that you were too poor to help anyway. You'd already paid for everything, and I was insulting you while you were saving our mother's life. And funding the technology that will save her, Maria added. Sophie, you haven't just built a business. You've built something that helps people. I felt tears starting to form. That was always the goal. When I turned down medical school, everyone thought I was throwing away my chance to help people. But this way I can help thousands of people instead of dozens. Derek stood up and walked around the table to hug me. I'm so sorry, Sophie. You've accomplished something incredible, and instead of being proud, we've been dismissive and cruel. We're family, I said. That's what family does. We take care of each other, even when we don't understand each other. Maria joined our hug. Can you forgive us for being such idiots? Already forgiven. But things need to change. No more assumptions about my life, no more dismissing my choices, and definitely no more texts about how poor I am. Derek laughed through his tears. Deal. Though I have to ask, if you own part of this hospital, why didn't you just tell Dr. Harrison to comp the surgery? Because that's not how ethical business works. The surgery needed to be funded properly, through appropriate channels with proper documentation. Plus, the research data from Mom's procedure will help improve the device for future patients. So Mom's surgery is also contributing to medical research? Maria asked. Every procedure using experimental devices contributes to the database that helps refine the technology. Mom's recovery will literally help save other lives. An hour later, we sat in the surgical waiting room as Mom underwent her procedure. The conversation had shifted entirely from financial stress to hopeful anticipation, and for the first time in years, I felt genuinely connected to my siblings. Sophie, Derek said during a quiet moment, I need to ask about something. You mentioned that Phoenix Medical owns 30% of this hospital. Does that mean you're basically my boss? I laughed. Only if you want me to be. Our investment is passive. We provide funding and technology, but we don't interfere with medical decisions or personnel. Good, because having my little sister as my boss would be weird. Derek, I'm 34 years old. When are you going to stop calling me your little sister? Never. Though I might start calling you my little sister who could buy and sell this entire hospital. Maria looked up from her magazine. Speaking of which, can you explain how you went from turning down medical school to owning a multi-billion-dollar company? That's quite a leap. It started with my senior year research project on medical technology patents. I realized there was a huge gap between innovative research and practical implementation. Good ideas were dying in labs because there was no funding structure to bring them to market. So you created one? I started small. Used my college savings to buy a stake in a promising medical device patent. When that device got FDA approval and went to market, the return was substantial enough to fund the next investment. And you just kept building from there? For 10 years, yes. Each successful investment funded larger projects, bigger acquisitions, more comprehensive research initiatives. Derek shook his head in amazement. While I was learning to perform surgery, you were learning to fund the technology that makes surgery possible. Different approaches to the same goal, helping people live healthier lives. Dr. Harrison appeared in the waiting room, still in his surgical scrubs but smiling. The procedure was a complete success. Mrs. Rodriguez is stable, the device is functioning perfectly, and her prognosis is excellent. We all stood up, relief flooding through the room. When can we see her? Maria asked. She's in recovery now. You can visit in about an hour once she's fully awake. Dr. Harrison, I said, thank you for everything. Your surgical team, the technology, the care, it's all been exceptional. Sophie, it's been an honor to work with Phoenix Medical on this. The device performed exactly as our research predicted, and the surgical procedure went smoother than I could have hoped. After Dr. Harrison left, Derek turned to me with a serious expression. Sophie, I need to say something. What you've built isn't just impressive from a business standpoint. You've created something that literally saves lives. I'm proud to be your brother. I'm proud of both of you too. Derek, you perform miracles every day in the operating room. Maria, you've built a practice that makes people's lives better. We're all contributing in our own ways. But you're contributing on a scale we never imagined, Maria said. How many hospitals does Phoenix Medical work with? Directly? About 47 across North America and Europe. Indirectly, through technology licensing and research partnerships, probably closer to 200. That's incredible. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Tokyo acquisition completed successfully. German partnership signed. Patent approval for the new cardiac monitoring system received. Congratulations on your mother's successful surgery. I smiled and put my phone away. The business can wait. Today is about family. When we finally got to see Mom in recovery, she was awake and alert, though still groggy from anesthesia. Her face lit up when she saw us. How do you feel, Mom? I asked, taking her hand. Like I have a new heart, she said softly. Dr. Harrison said the device is working perfectly. It is, Derek confirmed, checking her monitors with professional expertise. Your cardiac output is already improved. Mom, Maria said, there's something we need to tell you about how this surgery was paid for. Over the next few minutes, we explained everything to Mom. My company, the payment, the technology development, and our family's long history of misunderstanding my career. Mom listened with increasing amazement, occasionally squeezing my hand. Sophie, honey, you saved my life, she said finally. The surgical team saved your life. I just provided the funding and technology. Don't minimize what you've done, Derek interjected. Without Phoenix Medical, this surgery wouldn't have been possible. Mom looked at each of us. I want to understand something. Sophie, when did you pay for this surgery? 3 weeks ago, as soon as Dr. Harrison mentioned the procedure. And Derek, when did you first tell Sophie about needing money? Derek looked sheepish. Last night. So Sophie paid for my surgery before any of us even knew we needed help? That's right, I confirmed. Mom started crying. My daughter has been taking care of our entire family, and we've been treating her like she needed our help. Mom, family takes care of family. That's just what we do. But we haven't been taking care of you, she said. We've been dismissing you and underestimating you for years. That's changing, Derek said firmly. Starting now. 3 days later, Mom was discharged with a perfect prognosis and instructions for a simple recovery routine. The experimental cardiac device was functioning flawlessly, and Dr. Harrison was already discussing publishing the surgical results in major medical journals. As we gathered for a family dinner at Mom's house, the first time in years that we'd all been together without underlying tension, Derek raised his glass for a toast. To Sophie, who built an empire while we thought she was struggling, who saved our mother while we thought she couldn't help, and who forgave us for being blind to her incredible achievements. To family, I replied. To understanding each other better and supporting each other's dreams, even when we don't immediately understand them. To second chances, Maria added. And to the technology that's going to give Mom many more years with us. To my brilliant children, Mom concluded, all of whom have found ways to heal the world. As we clinked glasses, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a decade. The satisfaction of being truly seen and valued by my family. The empire I'd built was impressive, but the relationships I was rebuilding were priceless. My phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Harrison. Sophie, preliminary results from your mother's surgery are exceeding all expectations. The device is performing flawlessly, and we'd like to discuss expanding the clinical trial program. Your mother's procedure may have just opened the door to helping thousands more patients. I smiled and put my phone away without reading the message to my family. There would be time for business later. Tonight was for celebrating the most important investment I'd ever made, the one in my family's health and our relationships with each other. Sometimes the best returns aren't measured in dollars.